You know, it's a video that I like a lot? That edit of the Evangelion ending, except instead of Rey spinning in place, it's replaced with that gif of Patrick Star riding a mechanical seahorse. I love this video. Well, me and everyone else, I guess. But what I love most about this video isn't the cover of Frank Sinatra's Fly Me to the Moon, or the relaxing imagery of Patrick. No, what I love most about this video is that seeing it always reminds me of the exact episode and the exact scene that this gif was lifted from. Sleepy Time is the 30th episode of the first season of SpongeBob SquarePants. In the episode, SpongeBob gets abruptly catapulted out of his dream, and sees that he has the ability to enter the dreams of the other inhabitants of Bikini Bottom. SpongeBob travels from dream to dream, observing each one, and most of the time, somehow ruining the dream through being there. Each dream is meant to exemplify each character's idyllic desire. For Gary, it's being immersed in a vast library of knowledge. For Squidward, it's the honor and prestige of getting to play the clarinet for high society. For Sandy, it's the thrill and excitement of skydiving. For Pearl, it's a tea party in a sugary pink wonderland. For Plankton, it's the feeling of towering over others and being able to destroy anything and everything he wants. And for Patrick, it's riding an ordinary mechanical seahorse. That's it. Nothing else. Patrick's dream is the only one that SpongeBob is confused by. He's confused as to why Patrick would be having such a simple and ordinary dream when he could do anything he could possibly want. SpongeBob tells him this, Patrick understands, then continues to ride his mechanical seahorse. The big punchline of the gag comes after SpongeBob leaves, when Patrick goes to put another quarter into the machine. He misses the slot and the quarter ends up rolling down the drain. Patrick is left sad because it was his last quarter. So to summarize, in a dreamland where anything and everything is possible, whether or not it breaks some law of physics or reality, whether it's literal or metaphorical, Patrick's deepest desire was the trivial experience of riding a kid's mechanical horse ride that you'd find outside any supermarket in the 90s or 2000s. And not only that, the ride is still coin-operated, and Patrick had dreamt himself a finite amount of money to use, and still allowed for the misfortune of having a coin drop down the drain. Now, there are two different ways to interpret this gag. One, you can see this as a gag that's making fun of Patrick, for being so simple-minded that even in his dreams he can't imagine anything out of the ordinary. This is most likely how the writers meant for you to interpret it, considering in the show, most of the jokes involving Patrick are just making light of the fact that he isn't very bright.
You may be an open book, SpongeBob, but I'm a bit more complicated than that. The inner machinations of my mind are an enigma.
Weirdly though, the way I interpret it now, and even as a kid watching for the first time, was that Patrick was satisfied with the ordinary. He didn't need to dream up something out of this world or an unrealistic fantasy for him to feel content with himself. And even as a kid, I thought that was pretty cool. Anyway, the Demon Slayer movie. It was pretty sick.
Decent to strong 7.
And it certainly had a lot going for it, although in discussion, most of it gets washed away by the final fight between Rengoku and Akaza, and Rengoku more generally. It's actually kind of crazy how quickly Rengoku became a fan favorite in the series, despite being only introduced at the very end of the previous arc, then dying in this one. There's just something immediately infectious about Rengoku's character. His straightforward and passionate optimism seems to win a lot of people over, both characters in the story and people watching or reading. That's why, if I was to pick what my favorite part of the movie was, it would most definitely be the dream sequences in the first act. After getting put to sleep by a demon's blood demon arc, Rengoku, Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inosuke get trapped in dreams that correspond to their deepest desire. Zenitsu dreams of receiving love and affection from his crush Nezuko. Inosuke dreams of being respected and admired as a leader by his friends. Tanjiro dreams of being reunited with his deceased family. And Rengoku dreams of getting scolded by his father and told he won't amount to anything on the day he finally becomes a Hashira, and having to reassure his anxious little brother. One of these is not like the others. The desire for love, affection, adoration, and to be reunited with lost loved ones is universal. I'm sure most of us have a dream like these, whether or not we remember them. I'm sure many of us have had a dream like Rengoku's as well. But we wouldn't call it a dream. It would be a nightmare. And yet this is what Rengoku's good dream looks like. The demon Enmu who cast the spell to put him to sleep made it clear that he specifically cast a spell to give them all good dreams. And later shows that he does have the ability to give nightmares if he wants to. So what does it mean for Rengoku that this is his good dream? Well, there's surprisingly a lot to unpack, but Rengoku's dream mirrors his awakened reality. His father is still trapped in feelings of self-loathing that pushes him to alcoholism and trying to stifle any ambition in himself and his children. His little brother is still anxious about his lack of talent and the condition of their father. The fact that the dream involves the moment Rengoku becomes a Hashira means two things. First, Rengoku is dreaming of something he has already accomplished, and two, demons are still a thing. He could have easily dreamt of a world without demons, or better yet, a world where he's the one to kill Muzan and put an end to all demons. But he didn't. And the biggest thing is, his mother is not there. Despite the fact that later in the movie we learn how important his mother is to him. Here in a dreamland where everything and anything is possible, whether or not it breaks some law of physics or reality, whether it's literal or metaphorical, Rengoku didn't wish for anything he didn't already have. He didn't need to dream away his problems to feel content with his life. That is at the core of Rengoku's character. When you think about it, dreams are an incredibly cruel and sad phenomena. In the moment they may be pleasant, but there are few experiences more soul-crushing than waking up from a wonderful dream. I'm sure we've all felt this way before, waking up from a dream and desperately wanting to go back, but can't due to worldly obligations, or even trying to, but failing to re-enter that dream. Personally, I've even had lucid dreams where I could slowly feel myself waking up, and I desperately try everything I can to keep myself fast asleep. Always with no success. It's mornings like those that I'm glad we forget our dreams as quickly as they come. Because I couldn't bear to go on otherwise. Early on in Sleepy Time, when SpongeBob is talking to Gary about dreams, Gary quotes this Emily Dickinson poem about accepting the end of our dreams, and hoping for them to come again.
Let me not mar that perfect dream by an oral stain, but so adjust my daily night that it may come again. Emily Dickinson wrote that.
Emily Dickinson actually had a bunch of poems about dreams. Another one that would have worked here is this. Dreams are a subtle dower that make us rich an hour, then fling us poor out of the purple door into a precinct raw process before. Emily Dickinson wrote that.
Who?
There is just something so bittersweet about reminiscing on dreams. Because even at their best, they expose that we lead a life full of unfulfilled desires. And at worst, unfulfillable desires. They fill us with a profound satisfaction that could rarely ever be felt while awake, but the second you try to become comfortable in it, you're thrown back out, to a harsh reality. Even those who believe themselves to have blessed lives can feel that way. But why is that? One thing you could say is it's because in the dream, we have things that we don't in real life. But that's only half the picture. What makes Patrick and Rengoku's dreams similar is what makes them weird when compared to the other dreams in their respective series. What each character dreams reveals two things about each character. What they desire the most, and what they feel they're lacking in their waking life. Squidward desperately wants to be seen as high class, and the fact that he isn't causes him stress. Zenitsu wants to be loved, and the fact that he isn't is the cause of his self-confidence issues. And it goes on. Plankton wants to be big and powerful, Inosuke wants to be respected, Mr. Krabs wants to play that one song on the radio, and Tanjiro wants to be reunited with his family. What is tragic about when they awake is not the fact that they have gained something and now lost it, but instead the dream serves as a reminder that their life is missing something, because it isn't the loss that causes the suffering, it's the want. Desire is the root of all suffering. That is the foundational teaching of Buddhism. But that thought is in no way only Buddhist. Many before and after Siddhartha have reached that same conclusion. Take, for example, the psychological idea of the hedonic treadmill. The hedonic treadmill is a metaphor used to describe the human tendency to always return to a baseline level of happiness, despite negative or positive events in our lives. The best example of this for most people is probably the experience of buying something new. Being excited and enamored by it, then getting used to it and not caring so much about it anymore. Every one of us has felt this way about something, and about things a lot more important than a new toy. Dream jobs become jobs, achievements become the past, crushes become exes, excitement becomes indifference, dreams become reality. Accomplishments and gains may make us feel good for a while, but soon we always rebound to the same level of happiness we had before, causing the cycle to continue. You ever wonder why millionaires that have more money than you can even imagine still go out of their way to try to make more? Why people with love-on partners cheat on them with someone new? Why skilled professionals and master craftsmen can still be affected by a profound self-loathing for their abilities? Why successful people are still profoundly depressed? One answer is that you never know what someone is struggling with. And another is that feeding your desires is not at all synonymous with happiness. Buddhism isn't even the only ancient school of thought that came to that realization. Stoicism was a philosophy developed a couple hundred years after the Buddha died, in ancient Greece, by Zeno of Citium and
Epictetus.
It was made widely popular by Marcus Aurelius, after his journals, which were full of writing about Stoicism, were published after his death. Stoics believed that since most events and things in your life are largely out of your control, or at least partly dependent on luck, you should focus your attention elsewhere. Whether you meet your Romeo or Juliet, or become a millionaire are largely out of your control. Sure, there's a lot you can do to raise your odds, you can date around, or you can focus on getting smarter and wiser in hopes that you can play the market, but there will always be a large element of luck. It's about being in the right place at the right time, and no one can know where that is for certain. Worse than that, though, is wanting something that's literally unattainable, like gaining immortality, redoing your past, or being reunited with lost loved ones. Wanting these things is a surefire way to put yourself down, because ultimately, it's out of your hands. You've made yourself hungry for something you'll possibly never have. It's why I can't help but pity these characters for dreaming of what they do. Whether it be SpongeBob or Demon Slayer, their dream reveals that they aren't satisfied with their lives, and may never be. But two characters are the exception: Patrick and Rengoku. Patrick's attitude most strongly resembles what Buddhists think is the answer. You have to the best of your ability, extinguish desire. If gaining more will never make you satisfied, then you must try to find satisfaction where you are, with what you have. It's about finding contentment from within. Patrick, despite being able to dream of anything he could want, still dreamt of something ordinary and within reach. He even allowed for misfortune to strike like it does in reality. Yet he was still satisfied enough to not dream himself more. The world he'd opened his eyes to is just as great as the one in his dreams. You can certainly call that stupidity, but the results speak for themselves.
Mom! Hey, what are y'all doing in your pajamas? Are we having a slumber party?
No, we are not having a slumber party.
Do us all a favor, SpongeBob, and stay out of our dreams. SpongeBob.
Take a hike. Don't we get enough of you during the day?
Does anyone have a quarter?
Ironically, the Western show had the Eastern answer, and the Eastern movie had the Western answer. Stoics believe that since the material events in your life are largely out of your control, like whether you're rich or poor, sick or healthy, a have-been or a have-not, then you shouldn't worry about those things. Instead, worry about the one thing you can control: your actions. If you look at Rengoku's dream from a Stoic perspective, then it begins to make more sense. A Stoic's aim is to be indifferent to the ebb and flow of life around them. That's why everything about Rengoku's life is the same in the dream as it is in his real life. The only good for a Stoic is being a better person. Rengoku, despite having his accomplishments scoffed at by his father, did not resent him for it, and tried to be understanding, while recognizing in the end he shouldn't worry about things out of his control. And despite having his fair share of troubles, put them aside knowing his younger brother needed him. He didn't lie to reassure him, but instead stayed honest, but made sure to be there for him as an older brother. Rengoku's dream wasn't about receiving love, affection, respect, being free of his problems, or being reunited with lost loved ones. It was about being a good son and a good older brother, in spite of lacking all of those things.
正直に言う。父上は喜んでくれなかった。どうでもいいとのことだ。しかし、そんなことで俺の情熱はなくならない。心の炎が消えることはない。俺は決してくじけない。そして千次郎、お前は俺とは違う。お前には兄がいる。兄は弟を信じている。どんな道を歩んでも、お前は立派な人間になる。燃えるような情熱を胸に、頑張ろう。頑張って生きていこう。寂しくとも。
Stoicism is a philosophy more focused on how you choose to value yourself. At the very core of Stoicism is the belief that misfortune and fortune, curses and gifts, are dealt out in the world at random. It's impossible for any human to predict or control their fate. So much of life is composed of events that you have no control over. And if you place your self-worth in them, then the value of your life is nothing but a roll of the dice. For Stoics, that isn't just unpleasant, but nonsensical. How could the value of someone's life have nothing to do with their choices and actions? For that reason, it shouldn't matter whether you live a long, healthy, and prosperous life, or a short, sickly, misfortunate life. What really matters is how you bear your misfortune and use your gifts. This is the divide between Rengoku and Akaza. Rengoku and Akaza are both gifted fighters, but how they relate to their talent is what divides them. Akaza despises the weak, and pities humans because they'll eventually age and die, never reaching the pinnacle of strength. He respects Rengoku because he's strong, and wants him to become a demon like him. He thinks of Rengoku as one of his people, those gifted with physical strength, and doesn't want that strength to fade, so they can continue to get stronger together. Rengoku, on the other hand, not only rejects the proposal, but Akaza's way of thinking entirely. The fight itself is symbolic of this clash of beliefs. Akaza believes in physical strength for strength's sake, and despises the weak. Rengoku believes that strength on its own has no value, and protects the weak. This all comes to a head after Akaza lands a fatal blow on Rengoku. Rengoku, after being struck by a blow he must have known was fatal, was given away to avoid death, through Akaza's pleading with him to become a demon. But at that moment, Akaza says something to him that awakens a deep memory in Rengoku. Akaza calls him one of the chosen strong ones. This makes Rengoku think presumably of one of the last conversations he had with his mother. A conversation so important that it could be said that without it, he wouldn't be who he is. The scene is opened by the shot and sound of a wind chime. From there, it cuts to a shot of medicine. Medicine that we as the audience know is most likely not healing, but rather masking or prolonging symptoms. We know this because Rengoku already mentioned the fact that his mother succumbed to illness while his little brother was still young. We see that brother fast asleep at his mother's bedside, Rengoku close beside sitting up straight, as his sick mother looks out at the garden. His mother then asks him to ponder a question. Do you know why you were born stronger than others? Her language, as well as Akaza's, seem to hint at the same thing, that strength is a gift, not something that can be gained by hard work alone. He is born strong, or he is one of the chosen strong ones. Talent or success is something given. Akaza believes that's what gives him and Rengoku value over others. They are higher because they are stronger. Rengoku's mother, on the other hand, thinks differently. The gift of strength by itself is worth nothing. Rather, it's how one chooses to use that strength that decides a person's worth. The strong should help the weak. This stoic attitude is what divides the Rengoku family. I'll be switching over the first names here to avoid confusion. Kyojuro takes after his mother. Senjuro takes after his father. Their father falls into depression after the realization that there's a fighting style far better than his own, and demon slayers that are far more talented than him. Because of this, he gives up and loses all passion. If he can't be the best, then he sees no reason to even try. That anxious and defeatist attitude gets to Senjiro, but not Kyojuro, likely because of the influence of his mother. The goal isn't to be the best, it's to be the best you can be. It's not about being the strongest or the most talented, but to do something with the talent you're given. That's essentially Rengoku's parting advice to his little brother. And what makes this whole scene of Rengoku and his mother more poignant is that shot of medicine at the start. From a stoic perspective, in the same way that Rengoku is gifted with strength, his mother was cursed with sickness. But as they hug each other, none of that matters. Misfortune and fortune are made the same. What matters is how each fulfill their duty. Her duty as a mother, and Rengoku's duty as the strong. The title of the manga chapter in which Akaza just barely escapes and leaves Rengoku, and only Rengoku mortally wounded, is Whose Victory?
Ore wa chanto yareta darou ka? Yaru beki koto, hatasu beki koto o mattou dekimashita ka?
立派にできましたよ。
Dreams are a pretty cool device for storytelling, because dreams are the perfect way to explore what makes a character tick in a free and open environment. Patrick and Rengoku's dream reveals something about them to the audience, something that would have been otherwise hard or pretentious to communicate verbally. I mean, if anything, this video should have been an example of that. Patrick and Rengoku both have their own unique way of processing the world around them. And I think that's pretty cool.